bum 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 my bum. Not my bum, but bum. Gotta be one of the weirder intros. Morning. It's not particularly early, it's just, being up late and life. So, today is Warhammer Day for all the Warhammerings. If you're into Warhammers and you like Warhammering, today's the day for you. So I'm going to start this stream a little bit early for everybody who's watching this after the fact. The presentation will start at 9 a.m., which is in 6 minutes. So skip ahead 6 minutes for everybody watching this after the fact. Anthony B, it's early over here in Vegas. Yeah, for you in Vegas? Oh, yeah. It's what? It's almost 9, so it's... Shit, is it damn near 6 in the morning for you? Oof. Or is it just after? Is it 7 in the morning? 7 a.m.? Either way, pretty damn early to be talking some Warhammers, I think, no? Go for it, painting. Hello. Yeah, so we're just sitting here watching, getting ready, staying sharp. Warhammer Day previews, online previews. They're supposed to be showcasing Old World, Kill Team, 40k and Age of Sigmar. Was that it? I think that was it. Those are what's supposed to be on the menu today. So, any Imperialis? Doesn't look like it. Horus Heresy? I don't think there's any Horus Heresy. Was there Horus Heresy? What else? Warcry? No Warcry. So, I think Old World is definitely going to be the one to get everybody excited, to get everybody, talking. Just because, it is a much beloved system. So many armies, so many people's collections. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to it because, they've been teasing these newer Bretonnians, and they have a classic vibe to them. And I think that's really interesting. I think that's something I don't think anybody's really kind of addressed, that how the sculpting of what we've been seeing as new Bretonnians look like older sculpts. They have that same kind of quality to them. They don't have that kind of modern Age of Sigmar correct proportions. You know what I mean? There's still that kind of hero scale proportions. Oh, window change. What do we got here? Which city of the Sigmarite Empire is most renowned for its engineering prowess? Mindenheim, Nuln, Altdorf, Wolfenburg. Everybody says B. There we go. Because of the Nuln oil? It's got to be because of the Nuln oil. Anthony B, my dogs woke me up for their breakfast. Oh, okay. So you were up anyway. It's 5:56 a.m. So yeah, so it's damn near 6 in the morning for you. Oof. Oof. Yeah, it's okay. Doggos wake me up early too. Well, I only got one dog. I don't have doggos. I got doggo. Now, when referring to a female doggle, would you go doggette? When they were going tossing the naming conventions around, was that one tried at one point? Okay, that's a dog. Okay, what about the female version? A doggette? What was the name of the first box of plastic Imperial Space Marines? I think it's A, isn't it? Should be. All sorts of guesses. Most of them look like they're saying A. I'm pretty sure it's A. RTB01, yeah. LE2, SMOO1, and then Space Marine. RTB01, yeah, stood for Rogue Trader Box 01, making it the first plastic unit kit for the very first edition of Warhammer 40,000. LE2 was the product code for the first limited edition Metal Space Marine. There you go. There's your answer, Fishbulb. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Is everybody hearing me okay? And my volumes all sound good? Hope so. You know what? I suppose we can probably turn just the sound up just a little bit. Maybe not too much. Which War Dog class knight is armed with a pair of terrifying melee weapons? I'd have to guess C. Carnivores, right? War Dog carnivores? War Dog brigands, stalkers, executioners, and carnivores? Isn't it the carnivores? Everybody says C, so yeah, okay. There we go. There we go. Get a little bit of music going. Damn, I need a shave. Oh, man. Guess what I'm doing after this? I'm gonna go have a shave. Oh, man. What time we at here? Oh, we got 1 minute left. All right, 1 minute left. Here we go. Here we go. Let's get ready for the reveals. We ready? Are we ready? I don't think we're ready. I know I'm not ready. War Dog Carnivores. Vicious engines that eschew are... Oh, not enough chance for mischief. Which of the following is not one of Knave Black Talon's companions in the Warhammer TV animated Black Talon? Rostus, Hendrik, Vandus, and Chicana. Yeah. C. Vandus. It's Vandus. Ryan Buckman. Very ready. Love seeing new minis. Yes, me too. I concur. And, yeah, I too love seeing new minis. I thought I just heard like a horse's... Wow, I'm freaking hearing things. Come on, it's 9 o'clock. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get the ball rolling here, boys. Watch that and they cancel. Son of a... According to the Codex Astartes, Space Marine Scouts are traditionally part of which company in a chapter? 10th. D. Yeah, everybody said D. Well, of course it's D. It's D. Space Marines are all about D. They start with D. They have to master their abilities in D before they get moved off into other more elite companies. But Space Marines, yeah, they're all about the D. They start off D. Oh, here we go. Alright. Let's switch over here. I don't think we really need my mug here on the screen, do we?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the live Warhammer Day preview online. My name's Lewis, and I'm joined by Eddie. And today, we've got some super exciting news for you today. But first, before we get into that, Eddie, what is Warhammer Day?
Well, pleasure to be here, Lewis. So Warhammer Day is a celebration we have every year just to celebrate all of our favourite things about Warhammer, and we usually find something about that's going on in Warhammer to kind of be the theme of it. And this year we're celebrating 40 years of Warhammer. It's 40 years in this year since the very first edition of Warhammer came out into the world. We've been playing with dice and miniatures and painting up our armies for 40 years. So a great theme for a celebration.
That is awesome.
And this year for Warhammer Day we are also having a live preview, which means we get to show you guys at home some of the cool, exciting releases we've got coming up over the next few weeks and months.
Brilliant. So happy Warhammer Day to you,
A
Eddie.
very happy Warhammer Day to you.
Have you got any Warhammer Day themed plans going on? Are you baking a Warhammer Day themed cake?
Hobby?
I wasn't going to, but now that you've mentioned it, that sounds pretty good, actually. I was planning on sitting here for about an hour or so
apart from
you
this amazing preview,
and talking about some cool new stuff that was coming out. That was the main gist of my day.
Yeah, of course. And a happy...
Yourself, are you celebrating anyway?
I am celebrating, yes.
I'm not
I've got a
familiar
combat
with
patrol with my
Lewis.
name on that needs painting. I've built it.
Nice.
I just need to get painted now. So maybe some of that today.
That's cool. What about you guys at home as well? Do let us know if you're doing any Warhammer Day themed things. Are you playing some games today and painting some miniatures? Going down to your local gaming store, independent store to play some games of Warhammer? Do let us know.
Yeah, and where you're joining us from as well. Like people from all over the world watch these previews. So where you're joining us from in the world as well. Let's check it out. See what
I'm in Canada,
where
boys.
some people are coming from.
One of my favourite things about these previews is where they're checking in from. We get hundreds of thousands of people, tens of thousands of people letting us know, just flying past with the places.
So Japan, Australia, New Zealand. It's amazing. Netherlands, Texas. Germany.
Exotic Nottingham, I saw there.
Exotic
Fly past.
Nottingham. Oh yeah, gotta love a bit of Nottingham.
Just up the street.
Well,
from them.
thank you ever so much for all of you who are joining in wherever you are in the world. It's a pleasure to have you. A special thank you for those of you who are staying up very late or waking up very early.
Yes.
I think I saw some Californias fly by. I think it is very early in the morning for that half of the United States at the moment.
So, Eddie, what have we got in store today? What are we going to be taking a look at today?
Sure. So what we tried to do for this Warhammer Day is give you a little bit of quite a few different systems. So obviously we've got some Warhammer 40,000 as well as some Kill Team. And we've got some Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So kind of big 2 settings. We've got some cool juicy stuff on the way and we can talk to you about that. And then I think one thing that we're very excited to show today is a few more things for the old world.
Yes.
So lots of people have been very excited about the return to the world that was.
Kind of figured.
The old world, the kind of land that started it all, which was the setting of the original Warhammer 40 years ago today. So swords and sorcery and magic and dragons and all that good stuff and big units smashing into each other, which is where I started playing Warhammer as well. That was my first game.
Big units.
Not 40 years ago. I
Smashing into each other.
but,
It's also not just myself and Eddie here today as well.
They're all about the D.
We've
and
got
all about the
Notley moderating
units
in the chat for us,
smashing
keeping you all in
into each
line,
other.
making sure you're all staying safe. And we're joined in the studio by our wonderful producer, Raf, who's pushing the buttons, making it all happen.
he's really important because otherwise we're just sitting here in the dark.
Yeah, we don't get to see any of the cool stuff that we're going to be showing today. So, so without further ado,
Yes, we get stuck in.
shall we get into
Yeah,
it?
let's
Yeah,
get
let's
into
go.
this.
Okay.
Get into it, boys. Let's go. Ooh, Necron. Mechanicus. Okay, Storm Cloud. Yeah, Necron. One will harness the power of the storm. Oh.
Oh,
Codex.
yes. So the seasoned strategist, the mighty Necron overlord, Imatech, the Stormlord. So some of you might remember the classic and long-serving resin miniature. It's now available in plastic, so a great plastic refresh of this. Imatech's had beef with the Black Templars.
Yeah, he's got beef with a lot of people. So, as you say, this is a new plastic version of a classic character reborn. He has fought against most of the races of the galaxy. He's one of the very first Necron overlords, one of the very first Pharaons to kind of wake up from the long slumber of the Necrons, the eons of sleep, where they ready to retake the galaxy. Cool. And because he was kind of first awake, he decided to kind of claim quite a lot of the Necron Empire for himself. So he was like, right, I'm up first. I'm in charge here. So some of the early battles the Imperium had against the Necrons, things like Sanctuary 101, it's kind of the very first contact battles they had against them. This guy was the mastermind behind some of those battles. Since then, he specifically had fights against the Black Templars, as you say. He's squared off against Helbrecht a couple of times, and those fights have gone both ways. But
that would be sick.
Particular enmity between those two. But his main rival really is the Silent King himself, who's the kind of self-proclaimed ruler of the Necrons. So Imatech woke up first. He thought maybe he'd be able to kind of secure his grip on the Necron Empire, and then the Silent King has returned and said, "Oh, actually, this is my birthright. I'm in charge." So Imatech's maybe not too pleased about that. So there's definite politicking going on within the Necron courts. Those two are not fans of each other. It's fair to say.
And what are some of these weapon loadouts here that he's got?
So Imatech is a solid all-round character. So he's pretty good in close combat. He's got his kind of hefty war side there. He's also got a gauntlet of fire, basically. So he's got a kind of inbuilt heavy flamer in his hand,
shooting flames out of his hands.
And he's also a very good strategist as well. So he gives you a few extra kind of command points for including him.
Hold on, he shoots flames out of his hand?
Yeah, he's a very good all-round leader for your army. So if you're looking for someone maybe not quite the level of the Silent King, but you want like a really solid all-round commander who can go toe-to-toe with things like Space Marine captains and Chaos Lords and stuff like that. Yeah. He's a solid pitch for leader of the army.
And a new codex as well for the new edition.
Yeah, absolutely. So we knew the Necrons were on their way. We confirmed that they are the next codex on the way for Warhammer 40,000, which is very cool. Very cool. If you've got the Tyranid Codex or the Space Marine Codex, which is kind of landing in people's hands at the moment, you get a sense of the sort of thing this is going to bring. So lots of new rules for your Necrons. There's loads of Crusade content in there as well. So if you're particularly enjoying the narrative of Warhammer 40,000, you can lean into that. But for everybody, you've got lots of different detachments to play with. And much like we've seen with the Tyranids and with the Space Marines, those very much lean into a certain type of play. So you can have your for massive phalanxes of troops, which is the same kind of way that you'd play using your current index. But you've also got things like Necron armies that lean heavily into using lots of Canoptech stuff, or that use lots of teleporting around the battlefield, or use lots of things like flayed ones and destroyers and stuff like that. So if there's a particular type of Necron army that you like to play, there's probably a way to lean into that.
And stratagems.
This is one of the legions, which is the Hypercrypt Legion. So Hypercrypt Legion basically specialise in movement play, moving around the battlefield using Eldritch technology to teleport units and reposition them and have extra move and things like that. And this is one of their stratagems, which is basically you can have a Necron unit out in the middle of the battlefield, and once it's been targeted in either combat or with shooting, it can basically teleport itself away. So you can use this. There's some really,
that's pretty cool.
If you're a good strategist, there's lots of very cunning ways you can use this. You can plonk them on an objective or push them very far forward, and then once your enemy's committed to firing at them with multiple units, you can kind of pull them out of position, and all of a sudden, all of the enemy units are kind of in the wrong place, basically. So this is a Necron, a type of way of playing Necrons that lends itself very much to people who like to kind of shenanigans around the battlefield with lots of different weird movement mechanics, which is good fun.
Kind of like the Orb of Darkness kind of thing.
This might be my favourite way of playing Necrons as well, which is there's an Annihilation Legion, which is basically Necrons have been asleep for millions of years, and over that time the circuitry inside them has started to kind of fray. They didn't have much of their souls left, basically, when they had the biotransference into Necrons. So lots of them have become basically a bit insane over the millions of years, and that manifests in various different ways. So some of them become destroyers, which are like the guys you can see on the screen there, where they replace bits of their arms and legs and things with technology to make them better at killing. Some of them that manifest through things like the Flayer Curse, which is where they think that they are living creatures and try and like take the skin of other living creatures and drape themselves in that. And you can represent a force that's basically lost itself to madness. And one of the things you can do is give them enhancements and upgrades, and this is one of the enhancements you can give to your Destroyer Lords, basically, to just make them even scarier than they already are.
Super scary enhancement there. The Necrons.
But worth saying as well, the Stormlord is one of the new models that's on its way for the Necrons. It's not going to be the only one, but is the one we're showing today. So if you like your Necrons, they did pretty well out of the last edition of Warhammer 40,000. They got a lot of new stuff, but they haven't quite finished yet, so there's a few more things on the way.
Okay, right, interesting. Not giving too much away there. I like that. Yeah, just a little. That was good. So, shall we move on? What have we got coming up next? Yeah.
Mechanicus? Sniper? There we go.
Sidonian Gatros there, the sneaky stealth sniper. So there's a couple of weapon options here, Eddie. What are these that we've got?
Yeah, so this is a brand new unit for the Adeptus Mechanicus. We haven't seen this guy before. He is
looks like something out of Star Wars.
A kind of Adeptus Mechanicus sniper, effectively. So he fits in with a lot of the aesthetic we've seen of lots of the other things in the Adeptus Mechanicus army, which is you're on these irradiated dunes. You probably don't want to go too close to the ground because it's almost certainly radioactive. He also wants to get himself a nice view of the battlefield.
It's so cool. It's super
funky. It's a really wild and wacky miniature.
Yeah.
It's very, very. It's very 40k, right? It's really unusual. You can sort of imagine it kind of ungainily wandering around the battlefield.
This does have
but the way this guy works in lore is that he'll kind of find his spot and then he'll perch completely motionless, right, and kind of ready to kind of pick out key targets and take them out. And there's a couple of options in terms of how you want to kit this guy out. So you can either give him an anti-character weapon, so your traditional kind of sniper role where you can kit him out with a Radium Giselle, which will be familiar to lots of Adeptus Mechanicus players. You can also kit him out with a Transuranic Arquebus, which is anti-vehicle gun as well, which is really useful, kind of pipping off the last couple of wounds off enemy vehicles, that sort of thing. He's in game terms, he's actually a really useful little character because he's got the lone operatives ability, so similar to something like a Vindicare Assassin, but for less points than one of those. You can have a few of these guys in your army, kind of sniping around the back of the battlefield, hitting characters, but also quite useful for kind of hopping onto objectives.
So why would
in your
it have a
deployment
higher
zone,
strength
that are very difficult to kind of push him off unless you can get your unit right up to take him out. Yeah. But yeah, I think a really fun, very characterful, very different sort of character. And again, the Adeptus Mechanicus is one of those armies that's actually done quite well out of the last few years of Warhammer 40,000 releases. So they've got a fairly extensive all-plastic miniature range at the moment. But this guy adds a little something extra to give you some anti-character ability, which is something they didn't really have in droves previously. So yeah, it's a very cool little model.
Yeah, and a new codex as well.
Absolutely, comes alongside the new Adeptus Mechanicus codex. So this comes along with the Necron book. Again, very similar format to the way that the Space Marine and the Tyranids codexes work, in that what you've got in here is loads of Crusade rules, which, if you're the Adeptus Mechanicus, usually revolve around acquiring ancient tech and kind of putting it into, getting hold of it to make sure nobody else can, and kind of securing all the knowledge they possibly can. But for everybody who plays, regardless of which way you play, there are brand new detachments, and much like we've seen with the other codexes, he's leaning to a specific way of playing your Adeptus Mechanicus army. So one of them is called the Hunter cohort. So this is, if you like, your Skitarii troops, which are your cyborg warriors, basically, so part human but with their legs and arms replaced with mechanical equipment, and you can play them as a hunter cohort, which is like a stealth spec ops sort of feeling Adeptus Mechanicus force, where they're using lots of interference jamming to make them harder to hit at range. So a good way to keep your infantry alive at range and kind of compete with the other kind of big hitting infantry of the game. But there's loads of other ways to play them as well. So you've got things like you can lean very heavily into the kind of tech priest aspect and have lots of things that are kind of part of the cult Mechanicus. You can lean very heavily into having a Cybernetica cohort, which means all your Castellan robots and things like that, all your robotic units also benefit from lots of the army special rules. So in that way that we've seen with lots of the other detachments, if there's a thing about your army you particularly like, there's probably a way to lean into that and kind of extrapolate that into a theme for your force, which is good fun, because the Adeptus Mechanicus have got lots of very fun, kind of weird, unique, different unit types, and you can have some wildly different looking armies, right? So if you go all infantry, you get a very different looking force than if you go lots of robots or lots of tanks and stuff like that.
I love that miniature.
Yeah, it's a really fun model. It's a really fun model.
It looks like me in a pair of shorts.
I think it's probably fair to say that this one is a little bit Marmite for some people. Definitely. We've seen it. So some people have definitely seen it and gone, "This is really weird." Yeah. And then that kind of either turns into "I love it" or
I like that
what
it's
even
quite
is
divisive.
that? Yeah.
Right?
But it's cool. If you like the kind of absolutely wacky Blanchest style for the Adeptus Mechanicus, you can see this guy walking out of the pages of like a early 90s 40k black and white art style sort of
funky
thing. Yeah, it's really wild. It's really wild. I like it.
That's great.
And you can have a few of them in your army as well. So if you wanted to have 2 or 3, you can be very kind of make it a very scary battlefield for enemy characters to be wandering around in.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Elden Warden.
There we go. Yeah,
good stuff.
We're not even close to done. Shall we crack on?
It's a sniper
let's do it,
who stands higher than everybody else. Yeah. Oh. What do we got? What do we got? The Age of Sigmar. It's a wing. It's a skull. It's a hero. Oh. Oh. Cool. There's something familiar about that dragon. What's familiar about that dragon? That pose.
Ionis Critborn there, the first Lord Relictor of Sigmar. That is an awesome miniature. I think possibly the best looking centerpiece miniature yet for the Stormcast Eternals, I think.
Yeah, I mean, dragons have been part of Warhammer for pretty much since its inception, really. And I think that this is an absolutely phenomenal centerpiece kit for the Stormcast. It's a really, really cool kit. There's obviously you're spoiled for choice with Stormcast in terms of things to have at the heart of your force. You've got Lord
like Space
Senators
Marines
and
and
Star
40K,
Drakes and
Stormcast Eternal
Cells
have
at Primes and all
a
sorts of
wicked
stuff.
ton
But
of
there's something
options.
about this which I think is one of the best Stormcast, actually one of the best Warhammer miniatures I think we've ever made. It's absolutely awesome.
And the return of the hero from the very first AOS box set, right?
Yeah, so I mean, let's talk about the character in the lore a bit before we kind of dive into the miniature. But the character in the lore, Ionis Cryptborn, you guys might be familiar with as the Lord Relictor, who was battled alongside Vandast Hammerhand in the very first Warhammer Age of Sigmar box set, when the Stormcast kind of first arrived in the Realm of Fire to kind of battle for the Brimstone Peninsula. What he's been up to in the time since, basically, is he's been searching for a cure for the reforging of the Stormcast. The more they get kind of battered and reforged, the more they kind of lose a little bit of their self, of their identity, of their humanity as they get reforged. And he's been kind of wandering through the realms looking for a cure, and he hasn't found it, basically. Okay. And as he was kind of searching for it, he has found a companion in the shape of this new dragon. So, Lewis, I think you did some reading on him. Do you want to tell us a bit about what this dragon is?
Oh, yeah. So, Ionis found this dragon, met up with him. So, he's sort of once kept safe by the Seraphon, but is now sort of prematurely aged after spending a couple of years too close to Nadir, basically. So, the Drake is sort of looking for the location of his race's underworld, lost after their era-spanning slumber. So, but also wants to learn how to free it from Nagash's grip. So the two have sort of want to find a way to protect the souls of their friends together. So they've sort of bandied together to do that. So cool story there.
So this guy's been living in the realm of death, basically. Yeah. So even though he's one of the newer born dragons, because we know that the Drake race was kind of almost wiped out, basically, and they were kind of protected by the Seraphon because he's been going through the realm of death.
Sigmarine chaplain on a dragon, 100%
in that time, basically.
Because it looks
so you've
amazing.
got these two very kind of macabre versions of their factions heroes. You've got the Stormcast, who's probably the most gothic-looking Stormcast we've seen to date, right? So we've seen a few Relictor-style characters before with a couple of skulls, but nobody has quite gone all in on gothic. He's gone all in for skulls, right?
Everywhere.
Very, very Halloween-y. And then the dragon is a much more kind of wizened, ancient-looking dragon than things like some of the Storm Drakes or the Star Drakes and things we've seen before. But I think a really, really awesome centerpiece kit and a really cool evolution of a character that we've seen at the start of the Age of Sigmar as well. I think this is a phenomenal model. And there's just a bit of a reminder, guys, for those of you who maybe weren't with us at the start of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, this was Ionis Cryptborn in his initial incarnation in that first Age of Sigmar box set. So he's got a few skulls. Yeah, he's got a couple of skulls, and he is carrying around a skeleton, I guess. Yeah. His journey has kind of taken him from glorious golden hero all the way to walking avatar of death, basically. And in kind of lore, what happens is he'll show up on the battlefield, and then any of those Stormcasts that have been reforged a few too many times, he takes away, and nobody's quite sure what happens to them, basically. So he has a fairly grim task to accomplish now, after the failure of his ability to solve the curse. The first time you'll be able to get this guy, he comes in Cryptborn Stormwing, which is basically a box set with him and a couple of Drakes. And one of the things you can do with Ionis Cryptborn is you can use him you can put him in a standard Stormcast army, and absolutely you can use him in any Stormcast army you like, but you can also use him as a specific army of renown, which is all Drake themed, basically all dragon themed.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can have this guy and loads of Storm Drakes, just to kind of.
Who would not want to do that?
I mean, it's a dragon army. Right? That sounds pretty cool. It looks great, and it fights pretty hard as well. So, what's not to love? Cool.
That's an awesome miniature. That was awesome.
I think that the next model, though, that model's amazing. But I think the next one I actually prefer even to that one. Let's take a look.
Not this one. The next one. Here we go. What's this? What? Hey, is that like Courteous? The pose of a guy.
That is a good one. That's
It's
Belthanos.
good.
Belthanos, the first Thorn of Kurnoth. So a brand new hero for the Order for the Sylvaneth. So what do we know about Belthanos, Eddie?
The bug.
So Belthanos is a really interesting character, but both in terms of the model is obviously spectacular.
It's awesome,
But the lore of this guy is really interesting because he is the first Thorn of Kurnoth. Kurnoth is the elven god of the hunt. Anybody who's familiar with the old lore of Warhammer Fantasy Battle will know that Kurnoth was kind of had his avatar in Orion and was kind of generally worshipped by the elves of the old world. In Warhammer Age of Sigmar, he is believed to be lost or slain. But this guy Belthanos is effectively keeping the dream alive, basically. So he has the horn of Kurnoth, and he kind of leads effectively the wild hunt through the realm of life. And he is leading at the head of this Kurnothi force, effectively. So much like we saw with Ionis, you can use this guy either in a standard Sylvaneth army, or you can say, actually, I'm going to lean all the way into the concept of this guy's army of renown, and you can have a whole force of Kurnoth hunters and Kurnoth spite riders and revenants, and have a very fast, very different feeling Sylvaneth force. The character himself, in game terms, is very good. So he is effectively the avatar of Kurnoth in the mortal realms. So he hits very hard. He's very fast. You don't quite get a sense of the size of that model there, but the rider isn't human sized. He's slightly bigger than a Kurnoth hunter. So that beetle, this kind of firefly-looking creature, is a pretty big monster. So this guy can go toe-to-toe with some of the biggest kind of dragons and monsters and great heroes of the mortal realms and come out on top. But particularly at the head of a wild hunt sort of thing, he can basically smash through almost any kind of defensive line. He's a very, very kind of strong character in game. So really interesting addition to the Sylvaneth, brings in an element that a lot of fans have been very keen to see, like more of that Kurnoth sort of feel. A very cool new monster, and a very different way of playing the army as well. So I think it's a really exciting
crazy person in the back of my brain.
Yeah, really good centerpiece as well. And that looks like it's going to be so much fun to paint that.
It's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful.
Really is,
so I mean, it looks like I think a kind of firefly is the closest. Obviously, it's a fantasy creature. It's not based on anything, but it looks. Lots of elements there very similar to kind of real world insects and things. You could paint that whatever colour you wanted, but I think that kind of red and yellow is very striking.
And that Cornelian Greatspite,
I like that he's exactly
just
the same.
deadly, right?
It's really good. Yeah, it's really good in game. So it's very fast. It's very killy. So you've got the guy in the back has got is effectively a Lord level Kurnoth hunter, and they're already quite good in a fight. So you can imagine his stats are going to be pretty scary. He's got himself a ward save. He's got 14 wounds. It moves 12, so it's a big threat.
Wow, okay.
The horn he's got allows units nearby to run and shoot. So what he does really for a Sylvaneth army is give you a very different way of approaching the game, because at the moment your Sylvaneth armies are quite relatively defensive, right? So you've got lots of things that zip around and take objectives.
For anybody who's not familiar
it's a kind
with
of
the old
standoffish
fantasy
sort of
model,
force. This guy throws that out the window and goes, I'm just going to charge you. I've got a big load of spites, and we're ready for a charge. We're very fast. We can get right up into your face very quickly,
Look him up.
Leading that kind of wild hunt across the realms. So a really fun way
for
of
the
approaching
Wood
that army. And the Sylvaneth army looks great already, right?
Yeah,
So it's a brilliant addition to it.
Really
He was like similar
Fantastic
size as
addition
like
as well.
the old Avatar of Cain.
All right, well, both of these new characters are part of the ongoing narrative of Age of Sigmar. So if we take a look at the next video, and then we'll talk about what that means.
Oh, spoiler. Oh, we got some kill team. Nope. I'm dragging again. Ooh, deep kid. Ooh. Fire stuff. Ooh. Overcome. Ooh. Yeah, I'm getting intrigued here. We're building up to something. Okay, that dragon's pretty darn big then. He's almost the size of a bloodthirster. That's pretty big. Bloodthirster should be big models.
And a super sneaky little teaser there for you as well that just popped in before
We'll get to it, don't worry.
Yeah, we'll get to that bit. Just before Dawnbringers Book 3, The Long Hunt. So this continues the story of the Dawnbringer Crusades as the forces of order clash with a vast Khornate host. So where are we up to in terms of sort of the Dawnbringers narrative?
Yeah, so I'll try not to spoil too much.
Oh yeah, of course.
Going on, because some people might still be reading it. But fundamentally, the Dawnbringers is about the twin-tailed crusade of Age of Sigmar. You've got these two forces that are kind of moving out into the realm of fire and the realm of life, and they're coming up against all sorts of enemies and kind of trying to overcome them. Recently, they've just bumped into a vast marauding horde of Troggoths, led by the Troggoth king, and now they find themselves attacked in one realm by the forces of Khorne, which is the original nemesis, basically, of the Stormcast in the very first battles in the Age of Sigmar. And in the other realm, they're up against a marauding band of ogres, basically. Particularly gorgeous. So a lot of these are using rules from putting into Age of Sigmar lots of the things we've seen pop up in Warcry.
Is Games Workshop sitting on before?
So, for example, here's your Gorger force. You can have, using a regiment, army of renown,
right there.
you can have an entire force of butchers and gorgers with the Maw Pit at the centre of your army. And what this basically lets you do is, if you really like those new Gorger miniatures, which, why would you not, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're very cool. Very, very different way of playing ogres as well. You can make an entire force around these kind of ravenous cannibal, maniac, insane ogres, which are even scarier to fight against than the normal ogres are. And of course, there will also be rules to use these guys in normal games of Age of Sigmar as well.
Please tell me I'm able to throw and kick things into that huge...
You absolutely can, yeah. If you've got a Maw Pit on the battlefield and you've got a butcher nearby, you can throw throw models, basically enemy models, into the pit. The other thing that's quite fun about the Maw Pit in Age of Sigmar specifically is that usually if you've got a monster, you can smash enemy fortifications. And you can still do that, but if you fail to roll against the Maw Pit, it bites back. So if you've got a dragon or something that tries to smash it, you roll the 1 or a 2 to smash it. It does like something stupid like 3d6 mortal wounds to you. So your dragon falls in, basically.
That is cool.
So it's quite a risky proposition to try and take it out, basically. So that's good fun. You've got those in. The book also has Belthanos and Ionis and a few other kind of key characters and taking part as well. One of the other things that's a very popular new addition to Warcry that's on pre-order at the moment is the Flame Seekers. So the Flame Seekers are effectively trainers of Magmadroths, basically. So there is an army of renown that kind of leans into that, where you can have a whole force of Magmadroths and these Flamekeepers looking after their Kindledroths, and they can move around the battlefield. And the way that works is that you can actually hop onto these great big Magmadroths with your little units of Fire Slayers, and they can transport them around the battlefield. Really cool. One of the weaknesses of your Fire Slayer army, because they're very good in defense, very good in attack, but they're quite slow.
That needs more units.
You can counteract that by the fact you can hop on the back of these Magmadroths and kind of transport you around the battlefield. It gives you just a really fun new way of approaching doing a Fire Slayer army. And of course, you'll also be able to use them in normal games of Age of Sigmar as a normal part of a normal Fire Slayer army. So loads of good stuff in this book. So one of the things that you'll notice about some of the Dawnbringer books is they tend to lean into a specific Grand Alliance. So we had a lot of destruction stuff in the last one for book 2. There's a lot of stuff for the Forces of Order in this book. And then going forwards, you can expect similar things for the other Grand Alliances as well.
It's just great to see that narrative expanding as well, and what that means for the Mortal Realms.
And this book also gives a chance to kind of... for Ionis Cryptborn and Belthanos to do something cool as well. So they don't just go, here's a new character, isn't that nice? You go, he shows up and he has a moment to shine.
What's the dragon?
You go, or he's going to
both of these?
Looks like he's going to face off against the Bloodthirster and do some cool stuff there. There you go.
It's cool.
Right, so we had a little bit of an advanced tease, didn't we? Of the next section, but should we have a look at it properly?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Some kill team. Scouts. Striking scorpions! What? What? The conflict begins. Striking scorpions. I don't think I need to tell you I'm a bit of an Eldar fan. I'm digging them. Striking Scorpions. Oh my god, Eldar players all over the place. Losing their minds, to be sure.
Yes, a new season, a new setting, and 2 new teams. It's the much anticipated next Kill Team expansion, Kill Team Salvation. We've got 2 very cool new teams for this. The Striking Scorpions take on the Space Marine Scouts. Tell us what we know about these new teams, Eddie.
Yeah, so we knew that Space Marine Scouts were on the way, so we can confirm this will be the first place you can get them. But probably more excitingly for a lot of fans, especially people who are fans of the Eldari craft worlds, is a brand new plastic aspect is released for the first time in this box, and we'll get a release later on separately as well. So Striking Scorpions are an infiltrating elite combat unit of Eldari. They have trained in their aspects to be
that's so
kind of
awesome.
silent killers. They'll sneak around, get up close,
I like that
and then
unit has
finish their enemies off at
options.
point blank range, either with those Scorpion chainswords or with their Mandiblasters or with the pistols. So very scary up close unit. That makes them an excellent kill team because they are basically already experts at kind of special operations.
Yeah, there's no options. Usually with the
in
kill
this box,
teams, they have
you
like
get
option
2
bits with them.
squads of 5, which you can combine into one big unit of 10 to make your kill team, and you get all the options you would expect in there. So the Exarch has got either Scorpion Claw, or you can give him a couple of chainsaws, or you can give him one great big walloping biting blade, double-handed chainsword to carve stuff in half. Lots of posability in this kit as well, so you've got lots of different arm options and head options. So if you're leaning into the Ynnari aspect, particularly of your Eldari force, you could have lots of unhelmeted heads, but they still get their Mandiblasters and stuff, so they still obviously can fire and fight
only
it
one
close.
frame with 5 warriors on
but
it.
generally speaking, there's not a vast amount of customizability in terms of options, because one of the things that defines the aspects is that they do all have kind of standardized weapons and equipment. But there's lots of things in terms of posability.
New Scorpions, man.
How do I want them?
That's exciting.
The posed and the head posed, and
that is exciting. I'm excited for
in the
new
models
Scorpions.
You've got to play with. So as you can see there, you can build them in all sorts of different ways, and they all look quite different and unique, and lots more detail as well than we've ever had on Striking Scorpion unit before.
For sure. And the Scout Squad.
Yeah, the Scout Squad. So not going to dwell on these guys for ages and ages, because we did see these already when we saw the Space Marine previews a few weeks ago. But fundamentally, you've got a squad of 10 Space Marine Scouts, and you've got all the kits, right? So you've got bolt pistols and close combat weapons, you've got shotguns and bolt guns, and heavy bolters, and sniper rifles, and chainsaws, and everything, right? So all the things you'd want a Scout Squad to have. And in this set, they've been painted up as Raven Guards, because they look quite cool fighting against green guys. But you can paint them as whatever Scout Squad you want, right? So you can have them for any chapter, and they fit quite happily into any force. Every Space Marine chapter has got some Scouts in it. But that's really cool. So if Rafa, you could jump back to the Scorpions for a second. One of the interesting things about the way that this team plays in Kill Team is that you can either I'm going to have my whole kill team as Striking Scorpions, in which case you just use what's in this box, and that is a complete kill team in its own right. If you want to, though, if you've got a wider Eldari force, you can also add in some of the other plastic aspects. So if you've got some Dire Avengers or some Howling Banshees, you can mix and match those in together. And basically what you do is you go, well, I'm going to choose an Exarch to lead my force, and that can either be an Exarch for the Scorpions, as you get in the box, or it can be a Dire Avenger one or a Howling Banshee one, and then you can
where you're just
add
playing
in
with more models
extra
from your own
operatives,
collection?
basically up to, I think it's 9 you get. So you can have a few Striking Scorpions, a few Howling Banshees, and a few Dire Avengers. And there are bonuses for leaning fully into one aspect, and you can use some extra abilities and stuff and do it that way. And there's also some bonuses for kind of going next aspect and having a bit of everything.
It's so much
so
cool
it's a really
stuff
cool,
coming,
flexible
more
kill team, and it gives you a really good
I'm not going to buy anything of the old
sense
stuff,
of like how, like a microcosm of how the whole
Eldar
Eldar army plays,
for my Eldar,
which is good fun.
New
So it's a really cool addition, actually. It plays very differently from a lot of the other Eldari kill teams, all of which previously have been.
Scouts as well.
I'm going to have some kind of lance and then lots of dudes with choppy swords. So it's not that. It's a really different way to play.
Yeah, super different.
The other thing you get in this box, alongside the Striking Scorpions and the Scouts, are a few extra pieces of terrain. Cool. So it's worth talking a little bit about how the Kill Team box is going to release. Up to this point, whenever you've bought one of the new season boxes, it's been a very big box. So you get lots of terrain, a big kill zone, lots of scenery, and 2 kill teams. And what we've heard basically is that people have got a lot of terrain now. So if you've been playing kill teams since it came out, or even since the last edition, you've probably got 6 or 7 different kill zones at home. So you don't need more kill zones. So what we're going to do with this box is that the Striker Scorpions and the Scouts come with a very small amount of terrain, like what you've got on the screen there on the left, just to add a little bit of flavour to the box set. But then the kill zone itself is going to be made available separately at launch. So it's an optional extra rather than being a kind of you must have this alongside your Scorpions. So if you do want to add in a new kill zone to your experience, you absolutely can. If you'd rather just get the new teams, you can do that.
And this is like a water world rig, like it's super different from Into the Dark, right? Like
you're on a rig.
So the last season of Kill Team was Into the Dark, which was obviously very claustrophobic, very confined. You usually didn't have line of sight across the battlefield. You usually had to kind of move forward to get into position. This is really different, right? So this is, from a lore perspective, the Gallo Dark, which was the spaceship that they were all fighting on, has crashed into this planet. The planet is effectively covered by majority oceans, and there's all these kind of rigs across the landscape. And your kill team has got to kind of navigate what is effectively a kind of science fiction oil rig kind of situation. So still plenty of places to hide, plenty of places for snipers to kind of snipe from, but a lot more kind of running and jumping between platforms.
Much more open.
It gives you a very different sort of dynamic to your games of Kill Team. Also worth saying, if you just want to collect terrain for either Kill Team or Warhammer 40,000, these boxes are also just a really good way of getting hold of loads of scenery.
The wall sections and everything, that's really cool.
So so all together, so there's your what your kind of battlefield looks like, your kill zone with your Scorpions. The board as well is double-sided as well, so you can you've got a few different options in terms of how you lay it out, and all the scenery is designed to kind of move relatively freely around the battlefield to create lots of cool, interesting dynamic battles. The water is pretty deadly as well, so you don't want to. You can kick people into the off the edge as well, and that sort of thing. So it's probably full of space piranhas or
all sorts of stuff.
Or maybe we do.
But 2 really cool teams. Space Marine Scouts, obviously very anticipated. Striking Scorpions.
I figured the Scouts were coming out.
Almost every single time we've ever had a preview, somebody in the chat has asked for Striking Scorpions.
Here they are.
There they are. Yeah, you're going to have to find something else now.
Find something else to ask for now.
There you go. I'm sure they'll think of something.
Yeah.
So really cool. Yes, goes without saying, both of those can also be used.
We're
for
saving
Warhammer
Old World for
40,000.
last because Old World's probably going to be
another step towards having all of those aspects available in plastic, and then Space Marine Scouts have been redone in scale with things like your
no one will get the Kill Team stuff before it sells out. I tried to get
2 great additions to Warhammer 40,000 and
3 last boxes without any luck.
Well, we did promise some Old World.
I think
news
we
today.
did. Yeah.
So I think it's probably time to have a look at what we've got.
Okay, what do we got for Old World?
So
let's go, boys.
Takes away.
Let's do it.
Oh, Britonia. Horus Heresy Exodites. Warriors of Britonia prepare for battle. Oh my god! Holy. Oh. It's like a whole questing knight unit on foot. Roman. Peasantry, men at arms. Knights of the Realm. Pegasus Knights, my favorite. Oh, look at that. That's... Oh, that is freaking cool.
The Old World, awesome. The Heroes of Britonia ride again. That is awesome. That is so cool. So, Eddie, tell us about some of these glorious new miniatures we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. So we knew that Britonia were going to be part of the Old World pretty much since the announcement of it. And what we're able to do today with you guys is show you basically the launch range for Britonia when it's going to come out. And we've got a few other bits of news about the Old World for you today, but we'll start off by just having a look at some of these incredible miniatures. So Kingdom of Britonia, Duke on a Royal Pegasus. Who would have guessed, right? The world's best kept secret. A new plastic Pegasus is on its way, and this is a really, really cool new, very flexible kit. Basically allow you to put lots of to create lots of heroes on Pegasus for your army. Pegasus are a very, very useful thing to put a hero on, because in Warhammer, the old world, much like Warhammer Fantasy Battle, you want to have your general on a Pegasus or something that can fly, because you've got lots of aura abilities, and also you just want him to be charging stuff early on.
Absolutely, 100%.
So this is a really cool kit. You can make it in lots of different ways. This one is is a Duke. Generally speaking, in Bretonnian society, the bigger and cooler your helmet is, the more status you've got.
That's a lot of status,
and
right
the more
there.
kind of blessed by the lady of the lake you are. So this guy has got literally, he's got a little church with a statue of the Lady of the Lake on his hat. So he's got to be way up there, right? So this guy is a Duke of Bretonnia, and his heraldry, his kind of that quartered black and red with the axe, has been applied across the entire range for the old world army for Bretonnia. So this is the guy who has kind of inspired that across the rest of the force. The Pegasus itself is a beautiful sculpt. Maybe just jump back for a second over, so you can kind of take in the whole spectre of it. So
I dig it.
Really, really dynamic, cool. You've got some options there on the horse as well, but it almost looks like a kind of statue of a hero that you'd find in a town square or something, doesn't it? But kind of living and breathing and,
the Pegasus almost
and
looks
leading
like
the charge
the Napoleon
of the Bretonnian forces. So really, really cool miniature, all plastic, and with loads of options. This is one of the other ways you can build it. So you see a few different changes there. So it's a different head on the horse, different head on the character, different cloak, different sword, different shield, and this is a Baron. So Baron is like your common or garden hero for Bretonnia. The Duke is your kind of general or prince or something like that, and the Baron is kind of a step down. Still a very competent fighter, but you can see his hat's not as impressive. So
slightly less status
it's not quite as much.
Still a hat nonetheless.
He's still got a big hat. His horse isn't white either, so it's probably a slightly cheaper.
I like the difference in the color of,
but you can build it in lots of different ways. There's another way you can build it as well, which is as a battle standard bearer. So battle standards in Warhammer the Old World, much like Warhammer Fantasy, super important to your army, particularly for Bretonnians, because they give you your
that's some
rallying
Warhammer
point,
Fantasy
and they give you some
there.
bonuses to combat, and you can put magic banners on them and all sorts of stuff like
standard
that.
guy hero
and this
on the
is
back of a
allowing you
Pegasus?
to put a battle standard on a Pegasus, which is
That-
one of the
that's
best places
the
for
imagery
it. You can
right
put it,
there
you can get it where you
really show it off.
you
There,
get it where you want
well.
it to go to. Not quite sure how you fly with a standard. It's probably magic, so don't worry too
Easily
much
done,
about it.
yeah.
Easy peasy.
We've all been there.
Not a problem.
But yeah, a really cool miniature. Really flexible. I think we are almost guaranteed to see some of these in Golden Demon and painting competitions and things like that, because the
You're
model
100%
is
going to see a
phenomenal.
bunch of
It's
these
really cool.
in those competitions. Yeah.
And not every knight is rich enough to afford a Pegasus.
That's right. Not every knight can afford a Pegasus or even a horse.
Yeah.
So one of the
Nice
things
and around on
that
foot.
we
Okay.
have been kind of talked about in the lore of Bretonnia for a very long time, but never manifested as a miniature or a unit until this point, is Knights of the Realm on foot. So a Knight of the Realm is your it's the most common type of knight in Bretonnia. It means that somebody who's gone on their errantry quest, they've achieved a knightly deed of some sort. That might be slaying a small monster, or protecting a town, or rescuing a damsel, something knightly, and you've become a Knight of the Realm, which means you've probably got a little castle or a keep somewhere in Bretonnia, and you
cool,
are honour bound to protect the peasants around it. And if your
getting
king or your
excited for
duke
this
or your
old
baron
world now.
calls you must go to fight on
And you know
on
what?
crusade, basically.
I've said it many
So
times.
Knights of the Realm,
I'm not
many of them have horses,
that heavy
but
into
not
fantasy.
everyone
I'm more sci-fi.
will be rich
but
enough to afford a horse, or
I do
perhaps their
enjoy
horse has been
Bretonnian
slain and
knights.
they want to continue on
Bretonnia
fighting.
is the only thing
So
that-
Knights of the Realm on foot is
that
a brand
had
new
me
unit
in
with a
Warhammer
couple of
Fantasy.
options. You can either give them these great
Bretonnia.
two-handed poleaxes, or you can give them sword and shield. This is a really flexible kit. All of the
look at
heads
that.
are
You get
separate,
helmets
lots of
and
the arms are
unhelmeted.
separate. You've got loads of different opportunities to kind of make these models your own.
The hero looks like the old
and
Warhammer Quest model.
You can see the story kind of told
cool.
in each one of these characters,
I
because
love those details. On
yeah,
them,
as a Knight of Bretonnia, whatever your
there he is.
particular, whatever your errantry quest was, which is when you go off and say, "I'm going to be a knight," obviously you got to be royal or kind of noble before you can do it. But once you'd say, "I'm going to go off and be a knight," your heraldry is depicted by whatever it was you achieved.
The standard
So
is
if
cool.
you slayed a particular monster, maybe that
Or like a
manifests,
relic.
or if you rescued something, or protected something, or worked alongside a crusade or
I like
something
how
like
they
that,
painted the
that's
candles up on
manifested
the
through your
top,
heraldry.
too.
And all of these different head dresses and trinkets and things like that can tell a little bit of a story of your knightly house. and then there's lots of other little lovely details on there as well. So this is the standard and the champion for that unit, and the standard again has got that Lady of the Lake, who is like a recurring deity of the Bretonnian forces. Kind of a lovely little shrine there with lots of little keys. So it's got the storytelling through these miniatures is top notch.
Yeah,
really lovely
very
kit.
cool.
So really flexible kit as well. So you get quite a few spare bits. So if you've got some of the other Bretonnian plastics, so we'll have a look at some of those in a little bit, which ones are coming back alongside these. But if you've got some plastic Knights of the Realm and you want to kind of mix in some of the new helmets and things like that, you'll get loads of spare arms and helmets and shields and things like that, so you can really customize the rest of your force. We're going to go through some of the plastics that are returning and show you some of those. So Knights of the Realm, very kind of the most common unit, the kind of the archetypal unit for Bretonnia. This is a returning plastic kit. This is the kit kind of out the box, as it were, but you can mix and match this with your foot knights as well if you wanted to.
Yeah, these are
so they're on their way back too. In lance formation, obviously. Nice. Pegasus Knights, they're on their way back as well. So you've got some brand new Pegasus characters, which you can build up in loads of different ways, and you can put some Pegasus Knights alongside them too. These are kind of, as you'd expect, enormous flying heavy cavalry that can smash straight through enemy skirmishes and things like that. Harry enemy flanks, that sort of thing. And then at the other end of the spectrum of nobility, we've seen things like the lords and their mighty knights. You've got the peasants and the men-at-arms. So these are the lowest of the low in Bretonnian society, really. They are the farmhands.
The models actually look like a bunch of
that look
halflings.
after the castles. They are not of noble birth.
It looks like a bunch of halflings.
Very generously provide them with some level of training, and they've got kind of hand-me-down spears and shields and things like that. So this is a returning kit for Bretonnian, but this is kind of we get to see them again, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then peasant bowmen as well. So these are again peasants, fairly well trained actually. Like lots of peasants in Bretonnia need to look after their farmsteads and homelands and things like that. So many of them practice with a longbow. Actually fairly competent ranged unit. If you are a Knight of Bretonnia, it is against your knightly code to use missile weapons of any sort, so you're not allowed to have a crossbow or a longbow or anything like that. So they rely on the peasants to give them a little bit of help. Not that they would ever admit that they need help as a Knight of Bretonnia, but sometimes they bring the peasants along to see the world. Really.
Are we going to get a plastic version of the trebuchet?
Oh yeah, right. We're going to jump back for a second.
There's frogs on the stakes, just with the drummer there on the left-hand side. That is brilliant.
Yeah, there is a recurring motif for the peasant command groups where they have a couple of frogs on sticks, which they use to bang the drums.
That is great.
There is traditionally the wizards of Bretonnia, the damsels, occasionally turn their enemies into frogs. So my theory is that those frogs may be the people within the who've angered the Bretonnian damsel of the army in some way, shape, or form, and turned into a frog. Yeah, it's a pretty grim. Turning into a frog is bad enough, and then being turned into a drumstick is a pretty.
Is worse.
I can't imagine you last very long.
Absolutely.
As a frog
imagine
drumstick.
how they fit that drumstick on the frog.
With the field trebuchet for Bretonnia is returning as well. So this originally was a metal kit. If you ever had the joy of building this as a metal kit, you'll know it was not the most fun to build as a metal kit. It's been retooled and reworked in Forge World resin. So this is going to be really lovely detail, much easier to put together than the metal version of the past, but a really great returning kit. Alongside this, you'll also see lots of returning metal kits, and for some of the other armies as well, some other things have been kind of retooled into Forge World resin as well. So there's some great
so I wonder if that's what they're
returning
do then,
units,
for
as
all
well as some really cool new
plastics
and some new resins for some of the different armies as well. So speaking of new resins, here are some of the resins that we've already know are on their way from Bretonnia. So we've got Damsel on a Unicorn at the centre there. We've got a couple of Battle Standard Bearers, and we've got Questing Paladin on foot. But we have a new resin model to show you as well. So this is the Handmaiden of the Lady. This is your wizard, basically, for Bretonnian forces. In Bretonnia, men aren't allowed to practice sorcery for the most part. But what happens is that every now and again, daughters of nobility will go missing, and then they will turn up, kind of abducted into the night by fey creatures, and then they will return as handmaidens of the lady with unnatural powers.
This is
Nobody's
probably
quite
Resident,
sure what
right?
their power comes from,
okay.
or what the nature of the entities that grant them it is, but they do seem to have the blessing of the Lady of the Lake, so nobody asks too many questions in case they get turned into frogs.
Yeah, of course.
So they're going to give you your magic effectively for Bretonia, and what it does is it gives you a really nice kind of triple style for the Bretonian force. So you've got the very glorious knights in their very shining armor and gold and silver and very noble. And then you've got the peasants who have got kind of hand-me-down shields and poleaxes and kind of walking through the mud every day. And then you've got the handmaidens of the lady, which have a very different aesthetic altogether. And they're very kind of pristine, pure, life magic made manifest sort of thing.
It's great.
Yeah. But a really cool new army.
Yeah.
And that is pretty much what you're getting out of the gate for Bretonia. There's a few other returning kits as well that will come a little bit later on. But that is what is going to be launching for Bretonia when Warhammer the Old World comes out. We can confirm today that Warhammer the Old World will be one of the first releases for 2024. So it's not going to be this year, but you won't have to wait very long at all into the new year before you can get your hands on this. So it's not too long to wait. And then before the year is out, we will have more information for you on one of the other big factions that's going to be launching.
Amazing, exciting stuff.
There you go. Yeah, good times.
Yeah, lovely times. I think that's all we've. I think we've covered it. We've done it.
That's what we got. Yeah.
That's it. That's all we've got. That's all we've got time for. So, what was your fave?
Bye.
I mean, it's all very cool. So I am really excited about Bretonia because that was one of the.
Freaking cool, man.
I started with the Warhammer Fantasy Battle Box, which was the Bretonians versus the Lizardmen. That was the first thing I ever got for Warhammer, and I've got like a special place in my heart for Bretonians. But I am doing an Eldari army at the moment. I do really like those Scorpions.
Yeah,
So,
okay. They are great.
I like those a lot. I like those a lot.
Scorpion.
I think it's been a very long wait for plastic striking scorpions. So I'm very keen to kind of get these painted up and
you could have had this as part of your 40 years of Warhammer.
I'm really enjoying Kill Team at the moment as a game system. So I'm going to paint them up as a Kill Team, and then they're going to infiltrate their way into my Eldar army as well. How about yourself, Lewis? What did you like most?
Oh, I got to go with the Ionis Cryptborn. It's got to be.
Yeah,
what a terrifying miniature in the best way possible. All those skulls. It's just super macabre, super gothic. I love it. It's great. It's bro.
It's very cool. Okay, right. Well, we hope you enjoyed the reveals, guys. That is what we've got for Warhammer Day. A couple of things to remind you of before we head off. So it is Warhammer Day this weekend, kicking off. There is a brand new exclusive Warhammer Day commemorative miniature, which is the Leagues of Votan character. So you can pick that up from GamesWorkshop.com or from or order it from your local Games Workshop or hobby store.
40-year anniversary and 400 episode Away the Brush. Stars
if
align.
We'll go through loads of stuff in this preview today. We had all sorts of pictures and things. You might have missed some things. Don't worry, all of this you can watch back again, and you can also look at all of the pictures on the Warhammer Community website, which is really cool.
Yes.
So you can have a look at. There's probably some new angles and things those guys have got that we haven't been able to show you today as well.
Stuff on there, I reckon.
Just to let you know, we do have another preview coming up in the not too distant future. We will have a Warhammer preview online coming from the Grand Narrative and World Championships, which is happening in mid-November. Yes. So you've got about 1 month before the next one of these great Warhammer previews.
Not long to wait.
Not long. And speaking of other great live shows, if you guys stick around, we're going to be jumping right after this show to the Tampa Bay Open in Florida, where you can watch some Warhammer 40,000 Grand Tournament coverage with our guys over in the US.
I've been watching
so if you like your match play Warhammer 40,000, if you stick around, you can watch some of that as well.
Bro. So a big thank you to Notley in the chat for moderating for us. Huge thank you to Raf, our producer, for pushing all the buttons, making it all happen. Thank you to you, Eddie.
Always a pleasure.
No worries. And thank you to you guys at home for watching. Cheers. That's all we've got time for. We'll see you soon. Take care.
There we go. That was a preview. Pretty interesting. Pretty exciting. Lots of stuff there. Lots to talk about. Turn this down. It doesn't need to be that loud. Yeah. Very, very cool. I'm excited. Scorpions. I think that's obviously the big one for me, with Bretonians being a close second. Very, very close second on the Bretonians. Age of Sigmar stuff. Dragon Duder. The chaplain on Dragon. Anybody who's fantasized a lot about, 40K and stuff like that. And, mixing 40K elements with, like, more fantasy elements. So, like, Space Marines riding dragons kind of stuff, right? Like, anybody, okay, here we go. Here's the conversion. Easy peasy. Salamanders chapter Space Marines, making the chaplain, that model, the chaplain. And he's riding one of the drakes. And he's like a hero, and he's a chaplain. He's a Salamander's chaplain on a drake. That's it. It's an easy conversion. It's like a couple head swaps. That's it. There you go. Done. There's your conversion. Go. Take it and go. Take it and go. So, yeah. What else? Dragon. Oh, the Cernius. I like that model. I like that he's in that pose, that classic pose of the old model. I like that. And the bug mount is really cool. I mean, the bug mount for Ariel and for Cernius is really cool. So, just big bugs. More bugs, Yeah, with those Sylvaneth models, with the bug mounts and the flying bugs and stuff like that. Yeah, I've often thought that would make a good conversion for Exodite Eldar. I've often thought that would be really, really cool. That'd be a good use. That would be a good use of those miniatures. Would be, Exodites. Just for gigs. Just flying around on bugs. Beetle bugs. Flying dragonfly. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff, right? So, yeah. That's kind of what would speak to me. What do we get for 40K? Didn't we have 40K revealed in that? What did we get for 40K? Holy shit, I don't even remember what we got for 40K. Come on, people. What did we preview for 40K? I can't remember. Oh my god. I can't remember what we previewed for 40K. Was there a preview for 40K? Oh, right, it was Codex Necrons and Adeptus Mechanicus. That's right, with 2 new heroes. A hero for the Necrons, hero for the Mechanicus. Right. Okay. That's how much of an impact it had on me. Just for everybody out there who loves them Necrons and loves the Mechanicus, I'm not saying those factions are boring, but... Everybody's like, fuck you, man. I love my Necrons. Man, yeah. What else did we get? We got the Old World, we got Age of Sigmar, we got the 40K, and we got the Kill Team. Yeah. Back when we got the Space Marine reveals, Nova Open, yeah, I kind of figured that the scouts would show up in a Kill Team. It's kind of obvious, really. It's a good setting for, using scouts. And in fact, scouts in Kill Team makes more sense than heavy intercessors, right? Gravis armor, anything like that. Those things just feel too, it makes more sense to employ a big heavy mech suit like that in a big battle as opposed to going off doing a commando mission, when you got to send in SEAL Team 6 kind of thing. Kim, AdMech is the most expensive faction to play in 40K if you see point per dollar. Oh, really? Somebody did the cost analysis of factions, what it would cost you to get into the faction, yeah? Interesting. That's interesting. See, I wouldn't have thought so. But, I guess. Because I would think something like Knights. Knights would be the most expensive. And depending on your faction, Eldari can be the most expensive. Back before anyway. Seer Council, 1 unit in the army can cost you damn near $500. $500 on a unit. Points per dollar. But yeah, no. I enjoyed it. So it wasn't a bad preview. We ended a little short. I felt like we had a lot of banter in the beginning. I kind of prefer when they just jump right straight to the previews and just give us this spiel, but it doesn't have to be this back and forth so much. I mean, the back and forth is nice because it's supposed to be like sitting around with your friends and enjoying the previews together and stuff like that and talking about the stuff, which is what we all do as wargamers, right? We all do it. I mean, the painters, I don't know about painters. People who strictly paint, do you sit around and talk hobby? I don't know. As a painter, not really. As a wargamer, talking about the game, talking about rules, talking about the lore, talking about this and that, you know what I mean? Having a conversation about that stuff. There's only so much you can talk about, wet blending a color. You know what I mean? Working with different paints. Again, it's entirely subjective as opposed to lore, which is fixed, right? Lore is fixed. Painting, the techniques are fixed, but it's very open-ended as far as where it goes, right? But anyway. Kim, poor Hammer, did a big spreadsheet on all the 40k stuff. AdMech is the most expensive. Huh. Pretty interesting. Who's the second most expensive? Who's the second most? Who has second breakfast? Anywho. All right. We about done? I think we're done. Anything else? Any questions that you guys had? I think it was a pretty interesting reveal. Codexes coming up for 40k. Dragons and bugs for Age of Sigmar. Kill Team sees Scorpions against Scouts. And Old World sees more Bretonnian releases. As well as re-releases. I think it's pretty darn interesting. Russ Sandbags, I think it was Genestealer Cult. Genestealer Cult second? Oh yeah? Okay. Really? Genestealer Cult's the second most expensive? That army has no big crazy models. Really? I guess because of the amount of models you gotta buy and maybe the units cost a lot, I guess? Yeah. I guess. Ebb and Flow, sup everybody? Sup? Kim, don't remember, but Knights are one of the cheapest. Really? I would think Knights being one of the most expensive. Ebb and Flow, you can start now. I'm done. We're done. We're done the previews, man. Kim, yeah, it was Genestealer Cults. Yeah, okay. Genestealer Cults, yeah. Because, man, that's kind of blowing my mind. But I guess it's I guess they're taking the current meta army lists, right? Whatever's winning tournaments and stuff like that. Taking the top meta and then pricing out what you had to buy to get those armies and everything like that. I mean, for everybody out there who's chasing the meta, that's the game you're going to be playing, right? And that's probably why you see so many people complain about being priced out of the game or out of the hobby, right? Is because they were chasing the meta. They were always chasing the next biggest, toughest army, right? And I mean, as a tournament player, that's kind of the game. It's on par for the course, right? And when you're casual, it's not so much, but when you're chasing the tournament play, that's part of it. Which is, I mean, we've talked, the comparison between casual players and tournament type players, competitive players. And, competitive, chasing the meta, narrative, chasing their friends, trying to get their friends to play, right? So chasing the meta, chasing the narrative. And, the competitive players, on average, in my observation, spend the most money on this hobby. They're also the ones who are pushing the hardest for 3D printing. I find that those two are hand in hand. The competitive players who are constantly spending the most money, and the ones who are pushing for 3D printing. It's those ones, right? Because you don't see a lot of the painting community super aggressive about the 3D printing. Because oftentimes they're painting original sculpts or, interesting things. They're not worried about the cost of a Space Marine and units of them, right? A painter's not really that worried about it. Some painters are, because they're commission painters, and you know what I mean? Like, it's not one or the other. It's a spectrum. It's always a spectrum. When I'm speaking of this stuff, it's always a spectrum. It's never black and white. It's never, polar. There are poles, but it's not polar. Anywho. Yeah, so painters typically, when you're talking about 3D printing, typically they're talking about, an original sculpt or something, really interesting. They're not talking about how many Space Marines they can print on a build plate. The people who like to play competitively or just don't have the resources, that's where they're going with this, right? But anyway. Kim, no, but they are cheap per point, but expensive per kit. And they didn't take it into account value boxes in the spreadsheet. Oh, right, like the vanguards or, combat patrols. I'm trying to remember all these freaking names, man. Can't remember all these freaking names. It's too many damn names. Too many of these damn goofy names. Anywho, okay. I think we're done. We're done? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're done. We're done. We're done. It was interesting. I had fun. It was interesting. Bretonnians. Scorpions. I'm excited for Scorpions. I will be walking away from this presentation excited for Scorpions. And I'll be tuning in to the next one. If it has Eldari. Only if. I'm only coming back if we're talking Eldari. If we're not talking about Eldari, I'm not covering this crap anymore. I'm just not doing it. I'm going to stay in bed. And pet my dog.